The day before Thanksgiving in 1971, a man identifying himself as Dan Cooper bought a plane ticket from Portland to Seattle. He hijacked the plane, claiming he had a bomb in his briefcase, and demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. He jumped out of the plane with the money and the bomb somewhere over the Pacific Northwest, never to be seen again. The FBI claims to have investigated over 1,000 people, including dozens of deathbed confessions. In 2016, 45 years after the hijacking, the FBI suspended its investigation of the case. While the FBI is no longer looking for DB Cooper, there is a community of people who are trying to solve the case on their own. Welcome to the Cooper Vortex. Part 4 is here. Nicole and I have read 2 more books, and we're going to tell you all about them. The good, the bad, and the geeky old guy sitting in the back of the plane. I hope you already listened to the first 3 parts of the series, but if not, that's okay too. Enjoy part 4 of our book review series with my good friend, Nicole Legg. Alright, so we read 2 more books.
Yep.
Hahaa by DB Cooper and 18E by D.L. Hines. Fiction books this time. And I want to start the show with a spoiler alert, because these are fictional books. They're not like the investigative books that we've read previously. So if you haven't read these and do plan on reading them, you might want to read them before we dive into this. If you're not going to read them, then go ahead and keep on listening. Right. But let's start with Hahaa by D.B. Cooper. The sort of storyline of the book is it starts out with a brief, this is what happened, this is how it came to pass, and then it's his misadventures in crime, shall I say?
I would say, yeah, I agree with that.
That brought him to plan and execute the hijacking.
Yes, I agree with that, yeah.
Very braggadocious throughout the whole book.
Yes. I mean, I think you can definitely tell, since you are the one who wrote the book, after knowing who wrote the book and reading it for the first time, you can tell exactly the type of person that wrote this book.
Absolutely. So from what we know, it was written by a guy named Rod Addix, who beat a crippled guy to death. Well, first he pushed him down some stairs, and then he didn't die, unfortunately. So he grabbed his crutches from him and then beat him to death with his own crutches.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal. There's a book on that by Stan Terrell called Plague of Justice. If you would like to read about the origin story of Hahaa by D.B. Cooper.
Yeah.
And apparently he had written most of, or had a rough draft when he was arrested, and then finished the book in prison, got it published through some girlfriend thing. And then there's a big publishing drama, and it's sort of never released, even though it was printed. But copies of it have gotten out.
Yes.
So, keep that in mind, that it's written by this guy.
Yeah. What percent do you think of the Vortex has read this?
A very, very low percent. Very few have the book, and I would say, let's say there's 24 3 dozen people in the Vortex that have the book. I would say 10% of those people have read it. I had not read the book.
Me
until
either.
This last week.
Same. I've been holding out on it because I had heard the story about the person who wrote it, and I did not want to support that kind of author, whether he were here or faked his death. So I had held out on it until I bought it and read it, and now I feel like I shouldn't have bought it and read it.
It's a very vulgar book.
Yes, very.
The N-word is used multiple times in the book. Although he does say at the very end, when he meets the shoe shine guy,
yes,
which has the most stereotypical racist voice, that he was like, well, this guy was nice, so I'm never going to use the N-word again. Which would have been 1980 at that point in the book, I think.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. He's chauvinistic. He's racist. It was uncomfortable to read, most of the time. I don't know if I have anything nice to say about the book, except the cover is not so bad.
The cover's good. I
Yeah,
like the green metallic letters on the
yeah,
cover.
yeah. It's reading it. This is a criminal who wrote it because he's always the hero. He's always the ladies' man. In the end, he goes back and buys Sheila the motorhome because she's the one that got him out of jail by saying that, the person had called and given him an alibi, basically. And then he buys that puppy and a whole year's worth of dog food for a kid who comes in who can't afford a puppy for him to have it. Like he's just gross. He's slimy, he's gross, he thinks he's awesome, and he's not.
Well, he can't be that gross because all of the super hot ladies in the book fall in love with him instantly and
Instantly.
instantly sleep with him.
Instantly. Yes, every single one.
Yeah, even though there's one time where he's like at the pool
Mhm.
and there's like a smoke show on a chair by the pool and she's like, "Hey baby." And it's
Mhm.
like, when does that happen?
Yeah. The uh prostitutes at the brothel fall in love with him.
Yep.
Everyone falls in love with him and his friend.
Yeah, and
It's
he's like a pudgy loser criminal.
Yeah. Yeah. This is clearly a man with self-esteem issues.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of prostitutes in the book. It
I
did
mean, it's so bad.
it
Yeah.
did kind of have a little bit of a similar vibe to the Treat Williams movie, where the skyjacking takes place in the first 10 seconds of the movie,
Mhm.
and then the rest of that movie is just them on the run drinking beers in a pickup truck. And speaking of drinking, it is nonstop drinking in this book,
Yes.
drinking
Yes.
while driving, getting
Yes.
loaded before driving. It's like, oh yeah, then we had 3 beers for breakfast and then hit the road and polished off a few more beers while we were driving. It's like,
Yeah.
you guys are getting after it.
All the time. All the time. Yeah. I was trying to think of if there was anything that I could actually learn from this book. And I don't know if there was anything except for the fact that I think he had stated that he chose this flight on Thanksgiving Eve because he didn't think it would be very crowded at the airport, which seems a little opposite of what I usually think of Thanksgiving.
I learned one thing from the book,
Uh-huh.
and that's I had to Google the word pinko, which apparently means a lefty communist sympathizer.
Yeah. I'm glad I was getting nervous to Google things after a while. I just kept going. I was like, I'm just gonna skip that one. I don't know if I really need to know what that means. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't know anything he's talking about. Uh, is it, he cracks me up on a girl's perspective. As someone who dyes their hair every month and has been every single hair color possible, he says he dyes his hair black and then he's going to dye it back brown. It doesn't work that way. Once your hair is that dark, you can't just dye it lighter without bleaching it. So like he's just
That's
an
a good point.
idiot.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, you can't do that. Like if you've taken your hair black, like it's a process to strip your hair to get it back lighter. Like you can't just go buy a box of brown hair dye and make your hair brown. Like it doesn't work that way.
And that would be something rod addicts wouldn't know, like myself,
And
because we don't dye our hair a lot.
I've been dyeing mine since the sixth grade, so I know all about that. But that was just a silly girl's perspective, trying to find something about the book that I could talk about that wasn't about hookers and drinking and racist slurs.
I did make a note. I didn't make very many page notes on this because it doesn't really matter. But the book is what, 280 pages or something?
330.
330. Okay. It's
330.
330 pages. From page 17 to 273, there is
Mm-hmm.
zero DB Cooper content.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's about him, going for the big heist, robbing a
The
jewelry
big
store.
score,
Yeah, getting in trouble
which
with
is
the
always in
mafia.
caps.
Yes. I did wonder because there's a couple times there are words in here that are either all just bold or in caps. And so I went back and tried to see if they made a sentence, but they don't. They're just prepositions and stuff.
I thought that too because I thought, well, I'm going to make a note of these because Brian Woodruff, who truly believed this story was real,
Yes, yes.
he told me that once you figured out the bold words in the book, it would lead you to the clue. But a lot of the bold words are like the or
Hmm.
man
Yeah.
or it's just it's nothing that would make a
No,
paragraph.
no. It's there's nothing. Yeah, you're right. It's like that, the,
And in
yeah.
reading it, it wasn't like there were any clues to where this would be.
Mm-mm.
Because in the book, if you figure out the clues, you get a certificate, and that certificate gets you $200,000.
Yes.
Although a very interesting part of that is that it says the publisher is not providing the $200,000.
Right.
The $200,000 is going to come from the author giving 10% of his profits to the publisher to hold. Now, how many books would you have to sell in 84 or whatever this book came out in to get $200,000 from 10%? So you got to make $2 million dollars
Yeah, millions. Yeah.
off book sales
Yeah. How many books
in
were
80s.
published?
I don't know. I know I saw a box of them.
Okay.
I doubt there could be more than like 400 of these books.
Okay. Thank heavens. There don't need to be that many out there.
No, there doesn't need to be that many out there. It's
No.
not it's not going to solve the case. It's
No.
not leading to anything. Obviously, the $200,000 thing never existed.
No.
I don't know if there even ever was a plan to hide something somewhere because it doesn't seem like there's any clues to figure that
No.
out. And I'm not rereading this book to
No.
find clues.
No. I tried to do like some research and it looks like some Forrest Fenn people are trying to hook the book to Forrest Fenn, but I didn't really get too much down that rabbit hole. I found the video where that one person read the entire book on like two separate YouTube videos. But I just couldn't get past that because I just didn't want to hear anything from this book again. But I know there's a big group that think that this is related or was written by Forrest Fenn. But obviously you have solved that riddle and we know that it's not.
Yeah, it's definitely not written by Forrest Fenn. I couldn't even, I have a vague understanding of Forrest Fenn. And
Yeah.
even with that, I couldn't understand how this book would in any way correlate with him.
No, the only thing would be when he hid part of his money by that tree trunk, the half of the money that they had gotten from, was it selling the jewelry store stuff?
The pawn
Um,
shop stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So his half of the money. That's the only thing that I could think that that was maybe what they were trying to tie
Or that he
Forrest
bought a
Fenn.
bunch of silver coins in the beginning of the book.
Yeah, yeah. With all of his earnings, how
But
he
it would have been
invested
more
all
than
of it.
just Forrest Fenn that bought silver coins.
Yeah, yeah. Did they found Forrest Fenn's money? No.
His treasure?
Yeah.
Yeah, but even that's shaky.
Oh, okay.
People will argue with me that it's legit, but the circumstances are so sketchy. I'm like, how can this be legit?
Like, do we know what the treasure was and who found it?
Uh, I think we know who found it now because he remained anonymous for a little while, but
Mm-hmm.
like it gets found a couple of weeks before he dies, and then the guy doesn't come
Mm,
forward, and then I don't know. I don't want to get into the Forrest Fenn
yeah,
stuff because
yeah. Because
Fenn
I don't
people
know
are
enough
going to
about
email
it.
me and be like, "You don't know anything about Forrest Fenn. Don't talk about it."
Yeah, I know nothing about it. I know the name. I know there's treasure, and I know that they tried to hook this book to that. But that's about it. That's all I know about it.
Yeah, because there was a couple of gals wrote a book about could Forrest Fenn be DB Cooper, but even
Mhm.
then, when I talked to them, they were like, "Well, we don't really think so anymore, but it's just a fun idea."
Yeah, well, there are lots of fun ideas, but nothing you can work with.
Okay,
Yeah.
on page, did I write it down? Oh, I didn't write it down. Um, He does make one prediction in the book that's dead on, which was he writes, all Karens are half crazy.
Yes.
He totally predicted the term Karen.
Karen. Yeah, he did do that. That was okay. So that's our one good thing we can say about this book. He was a Nostradamus for a sentence and predicted that we were going to use the term Karens. Yeah, that's true. I did read that and I had forgotten that this was like 80 or 83 or something. That was, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm trying to think if
But
I have
just like I
anything.
mentioned that the shoe shine guy that he just gives a completely racist voice to,
Oh, it's
there's also
horrible.
like Italian guys that he does that to.
Yes,
It's just
everyone.
so difficult to read
It is.
and
Like
over the top,
oh,
cartoony.
and the pictures are horrible. Like he makes everyone look horrible in the pictures. Like, he makes the cops out to be, these overweight, out of shape buffoons, basically. And he's the smart one. He wants to defend his own case when he's going up in trial for that robbery, for the what is it, the grocery store robbery. He wants to defend himself, and his lawyer's like, yeah, you do have a good point. It's like, no, like this isn't how this works. Yeah, he's just slimy, he's yucky.
And
He's
the drawings in the book,
oh
I
gosh.
noticed that all of the drawings are obviously done by the same person,
Hmm.
except one. And that's the one that's also on the cover of the busty gal next to the judge. And
Yes.
that drawing's completely different than all the others.
Well, that one and the one where he's in the car shooting out the back. Was it what's his
Oh,
friend? Jimmy?
yes.
That one was completely different. Those were the two that stood out, but all of the other ones were like they took the same template and just changed it a little to match whatever they were talking about. But those two were completely different. The shooting and the girl in the trial. Yeah, 170 is the girl in the trial. But you're right. All the rest of them look the same.
The trial is a huge portion of the book.
Hmm?
It was actually my favorite part of the book
Yeah,
because it
yeah,
was easy to read, it
yeah,
was structured, I understood what was happening. There wasn't racism, sexism, or obscenity in that portion. I
yeah,
could understand it and it was easy to read. And it
yes.
was probably, I don't know, 40 pages of the
Yeah,
book.
yeah, I agree. That part of the book, I was kind of like, okay. I was like, okay, I'm settling in. Maybe I'm over the worst of it, but we clearly weren't. But I agree. The trial was very easy to read. It was very interesting. Um, of the book, I would say just read those few pages if anyone's going to read the book.
But the rest of it is boring, badly
Mhm.
written, and like truly not worth your time.
No, or money at all. Like,
Or money. Yeah, if you're gonna buy this book, don't do it.
don't.
Don't do it. I truly believe the price is so weirdly overinflated when I know someone's sitting on at, at least one person is sitting on a stack of these books.
Wow. Yeah.
Possibly two people.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get these for like less than 100 these days. Like
And it's
it's
not worth it. If you're a weirdo like me and want to see rare books on your bookshelf, then yeah, it's
right.
great. But I wouldn't recommend reading it.
No,
It's just a trophy piece to have.
absolutely.
And even at $100, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I don't really know how I feel about owning it anymore. Like this was, I think, the most I've paid for a book. And like I said, I'd held out for a really long time just on based on principle. And I think maybe that's why it hit me even harder to be like, oh my gosh, this book is crap. I can't believe I actually went ahead and bought it and paid, more than the book would ever cost. I mean, I didn't pay like an enormous amount, but, you know, more than it would have gone for within, at that time, what it was, what, $3.95
I
on the
think that's what
cover.
it says on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading it. My daughter was like, "Are you reading another DB Cooper book?" And I was like, "Yeah, but this one's terrible." And then she's like, "Well, why are you reading it?" And I was like, "I have to."
Yeah, that was Brad. I was just sitting on the couch, just like reading. And he's like, "You're still reading it?" And I was like, I have to get done. I have to be done with this, Brad. And I put it, when I was done, I put it down. He's like, "You're done." I was like, "Thank you, Jesus." Like, I'm so glad that one's done. And you texted me not long after that. That was just like, yeah, this was hard to
Yeah,
read.
I think I was about halfway through, and you were like, "I finished it. It's terrible."
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
said it was gross, was the way you
Yes, gross.
gross.
Yeah, I can't think of, yeah, I mean, he's a disgusting human. And you said what? He might have faked his death?
Well, that's what I heard the first time I talked to Stan Terrell on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he asked me, or I said, I don't know if he asked me if I told him that I heard Rod Addicts had died.
Right.
And then he asked me, "Do you believe that?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have a reason not to. Is it in question?" And he's like, "It wouldn't be the first time I heard he had died."
How old would he be? Like, could he still be alive?
Stan Terrell or Rod
No,
Addicts?
Rod Addicts.
Rod Addicts is dead,
Okay.
um, but I'm not sure how old he was or when he was
Okay.
born.
Okay. I was going to say, if he faked his death and he's listening, I hope he hears what a horrible book this is.
Oh, I hope so too. Rod, your book sucks, bro.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
You suck and your book sucks. I want a refund.
Mine was free and I would like a refund.
Right. And so the publisher or the editor was Judy Van Cleve. So who is that? Do we know anything about her?
We do know a little about her. I'm not sure I want to get into her that much in this,
Uh,
but
we don't have to.
from what I understand, like she was just running a small publishing company and got into this unfortunate situation.
Oh, yeah. That's a shame that she got involved in all of this.
Yeah, I bet if you talked to her, she would regret it.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, but I guess, no one's perfect. I'm sure we've all made life decisions that we regret, and that is probably one of hers.
I think I went
Yeah.
through all my notes. I don't
I
have
did
anything
too.
great to say about the book.
I
It's
don't
bad.
either. It's really bad. It's really bad. I too have gone through all of my notes, and yeah, he's disgusting. The book is gross. um I felt really bad for reading it and buying it, and I do not recommend.
All right, how many parachutes does it get?
Negative. It owes me parachutes. It doesn't get any parachutes.
I'm gonna give it one parachute
What?
because it is a rarer book in
Yeah.
the vortex, and I don't know. I'm struggling to think of why I would give it one parachute.
Yeah, I mean, it owes me parachutes. It gets -1. I want my parachute back.
All right, for an average of zero
For
parachutes.
parachutes, I can work with that. It is not a must read. No, it's really bad.
No, it's
It's going
not, and
back.
it makes me wonder, like people that read it that thought something of this, like where did they get that idea from?
So I actually Googled reviews of the book because after I read it and I was like, this book is horrible. I wonder what other people are thinking about it. And I went to Goodreads and it only had maybe 6 or 7 reviews. And like 3 or 4 of them are 5-star reviews.
I saw that as well. I use Goodreads.
Yeah. And I was like, who in the world thinks this is a 5-star book? Like, there's nothing 5 stars about it.
Maybe it was the first book they ever read, so they have nothing compare it to.
Right, maybe.
But yeah,
Let's
I saw
hope
that as well.
let's hope they, moved up from there. Let's hope this was just a learning curve and they've realized it's not worth it.
No, it's not worth it.
No. I feel really bad reading it. I should have bought the real McCoy.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. And I haven't even read that. Okay. Zero parachutes. Do not recommend.
Do not recommend. I
Do
definitely don't
not. Yeah.
recommend it. It's not a must own, it's not a must read.
Mm-mm.
If you just want to see trophies on your shelf, then that's the only reason to
Mhm.
have it.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything in that book that anyone should have to see or read. There are horrible ideas, horrible thoughts, horrible words used in that book.
Yeah, and I thought even like the people that are taking this seriously, there are so many things that you could look up in that book to see if that happened. I mean, you're talking about trials, the
Yeah.
way he escapes from the trial, he's found guilty
Right.
and then is like, "Oh, wait." And then turns around and runs out
And
the open
runs.
door of the courthouse,
Yeah.
runs out the front of the courthouse, and then like slides down a cliff
Yeah.
and escapes.
And goes finds Deborah,
Yeah.
who was
And if anyone has ever been in a courthouse, especially a courtroom,
right.
you would know, even if you got out of that courtroom somehow, there's usually a guard or guards posted on the other side of that door.
Yeah.
There's a security checkpoint to get in and out of the courthouse. There
Yeah.
is no just like running
Yeah.
out.
No, it's not like a church. It's not like there's this one room and you just exit out the back. No, it's a room inside of a building, a court, the courtroom. It's not just like a one room kind of deal. Like you just don't walk right into the courthouse. So yeah, it's he's horrible. Horrible book, horrible written. Like I don't know what he was thinking. He's someone I would never want to meet ever.
Yeah, and whatever scant details there are on the hijacking, most are wrong.
Oh, he takes a nap. Like he sets his clock and he takes
I
or his
forgot about the
watch.
nap. That's
Yeah, he
right.
takes a nap because he buys or he rents that house right outside of Reno, and that's where he jumps right outside of Reno. Yeah,
Yeah, just
it's
outside the Reno airport.
yeah, it's all so bad, so wrong, so gross.
All right, that's enough of
Yeah,
ha 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 for the rest of
yeah,
my life.
same.
All right, let's get on to
Okay.
something much better. The Man in 18E by D.L.
Yeah,
Hines.
yeah,
If you are a Cooperite, like clearly the author of this book was or
yes.
is, she goes by Lynn on the
Okay.
DB Cooper forum,
Oh, okay.
and a true Cooperite, which is very clear in reading the book.
She is. She is very, and if you read the list of people who she thanked, we know a lot of them. We know a lot of those names from the Cooper world. Some of them are, I think, probably drop zone names that I just don't recognize. But a lot of the people listed in the thank you section of her book, we've all know of.
Oh yeah,
Or actually
absolutely.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
And to give a brief rundown on the book, it's this couple that sort of accidentally travel into the past and their adventures, and she decides, all right, if I'm in 1971, I'm gonna find DB Cooper,
Mhm.
and that's her goal in 1971, which she does accomplish.
Yes, she does. She does. Yeah. It's a great storyline. I do enjoy that storyline.
I love the storyline. Time travel and DB Cooper, I am
Right.
in. I'm
Yes.
in.
I did have to look up what a motelophone was. Motelophone. The
Yes.
thing that she used. I did have to Google that to see what it looked like.
Did it look
It's
exactly how she described it?
yeah, it just looks like a kid's telephone that you can put records in. I mean, but what a great like idea of how to time travel. Like that was really genius of her to think of a way
Yeah, and
to
then it's
open it.
accidental, and I also love that there's no like explanation. It's just,
Mm-mm.
and then she time traveled,
Yeah.
which I love that. I
Yes.
absolutely love that. Like in Ghostbusters, there's no explanation why there's ghosts everywhere. It's just there's
And
ghosts
there,
everywhere.
yeah, she time traveled.
Yeah.
And the two of my favorite people are Roma and Wayne, the two hippies.
Yes. They're just cool with it.
Yeah,
Oh, what's
yeah.
up, future man?
Yeah. I think they're two of my favorite people in the whole book. I really enjoy them because even when Marv came, he was like, "Oh yeah, you know the girl from the future."
Yes. Yeah, and
They
if the
just
girl
yeah,
from the future calls, tell
right.
her. Oh no, if Marv from the future calls, tell him I'm at this hotel in room 1124.
Yeah, and they just totally went with it. Yeah, they those were such great characters. But yeah, I mean, it was great. She had really funny jokes. Um, I one of my favorite ones where she talks about DNA testing made the world safe by Maury Povich. She just had funny little lines here and there, references that I kind of, that I enjoyed. I thought it was really fun. It was a really good read.
I'm curious how you feel about the footnotes because I'm unsure. I'm pro and con footnotes because there's sometimes where like she explained what Jiffy Pop was in a footnote. And I don't need that. Or the one of the most upsetting things for me, page 171,
Okay.
she bashes Kid Rock, and then in the footnotes, she bashes him again. And
Yeah.
as a Kid Rock fan, it breaks my heart.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, so the footnotes were, I liked them, but sometimes they were a little distracting. I kind of would lose my train of thought just a little bit because of the amount of footnotes. So there were a lot of them
There
in
were a
there
lot
that,
of them, and some of them were useful. Like she'd reference some actor from the 70s that I'd never heard
yeah,
of, and then I'm like, oh, okay. It was a
yeah,
comedian that made drunk jokes or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Oh, was that Benny Hill?
No, it wasn't Benny Hill,
Oh,
it was another one, but there was
okay.
Benny Hill talk in there.
Yeah.
I did love all the 70s TV show references
I
because
did
they're just
too.
watching TV all the time.
Yeah, I mean it was awesome. I loved she did a Schrodinger's reference. Um let's see what page was that on? And as a science geek, I loved it. I'm sure I have the page written, but Schrodinger's hijacker, which is off of Schrodinger's cat, which is like this quantum theory paradox kind of theory, which I think is interesting, kind of like this is just total dorky science. The way Hahaa didn't realize Karen was going to be used these days. I think with Schrodinger's cat, like I don't think she realized that we were going to have like radioactivity coming in because the theory behind that is there's a cat in a box, and in the box is a radioactive source and a vial of poison and a Geiger counter. And so the theory is the cat dead or is the cat alive or is the cat both dead and alive? Because as soon as the Geiger counter detects the radiation, then the vial of poison explodes, and then the cat, theoretical cat, and at what point is the cat both alive and dead? It's this whole like quantum paradox thing, but it does have to deal with radioactivity. So I was like, well, that was kind of not expected, but I really did. My dorky self did enjoy that reference.
You
That was my
truly are
favorite.
a nuclear nerd.
I am. Absolutely. And I'm okay with that. I'm quirky.
I did find this book, and I don't know, I struggle to read fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I also struggle to read a book from a woman's point of view. It's harder for
Oh.
me to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like the first 40-ish pages of the book, it was hard for me to get into and follow. But then after that, it was like, oh, I'm in, and now it's going somewhere quick. Also, like,
Yeah.
she picks wild names for everyone,
She
which
does.
which makes it a little bit harder.
But she's got to be poking fun with these names.
Oh, of course.
Like I love Ooster Gooster. Like
Yeah,
that's
Ooster Gooster.
but I
Or
love it
what was
because
it? Barbie Bumfluff or BB
yes.
Bumfluff or whatever?
Yeah, it was because she's kind of towards Bunny Bachfeller. Was that
Bunny
her?
Bachfeller, but then there's also like a Blumfuff or Bumfluff.
Yeah. Is it because Barbie, that is her reference to Barb in the book.
Yes. But
which
she
I
just
love that.
flat out says it's Barb later on.
Yeah, yeah. I loved that whole idea of being in a bar, having a drink with Wolfgang Gossett and having Barb as a waitress. Like I had never thought about this whole scenario of having a bunch of these, original suspects just living their lives and, this web of kind of intermingling happening. I
Yeah,
really
and
enjoyed
Wolfie's
that.
there for a paranormal conference.
Yes.
Which, boy, is that accurate.
Right? Because at first when I read that, I was like, oh, I wonder if is this really gonna be Wolfgang? And then as soon as I read that line, I was like, oh, this is him. Yes, Wolfie is Wolfgang.
But she says his real name later, and it's like Wilfred
Yeah.
James or something like that.
Yeah. Something completely different than what we use. Um, and I loved Bunny because Bunny, I don't know how familiar you are because Bunny calls herself the mistress of the night. And the way she describes Bunny, do you remember Elvira,
Yeah.
mistress of the night? That's so like, I was like, is she referencing Elvira through Bunny?
But
I
isn't
enjoyed
Bunny
that.
blonde in the book?
She is, but I think wasn't Elvira blonde in real life? Didn't she just wear a black wig?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that.
I think so. Cassandra Peterson, that was her name, I think. Elvira, I think so.
I
Random.
just remember watching like those reruns on USA late at night.
Oh yeah, she's was the best. It was hilarious.
It was that and that Sandra Bernhardt show, USA
Yeah.
Up All Night.
Yes. So I loved how she brought all these different kind of characters in there. It was great.
And I love that this book is written by a Cooperite, and the
Yes.
main character in the book is obsessed with DB Cooper and a
Yeah.
Cooperite. And
Yeah.
as soon as she time travels to 71, she gets too distracted to make money and instead is like, I gotta find Cooper.
I gotta find him. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think that would be what would you do if you time travel? Would that be your
If I
main
time
thing?
traveled to November 17th, 1971,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm getting my ass to
absolutely.
Portland right away.
Well, she flies to LA first, right?
Yeah, their travels to Portland, both Valerie and Marv, are odd.
Yeah, not in any way that I would have gone. I'm not sure if she thought he was going through LA at some point because multiple times in the book she thinks she has like the possible Cooper, and then it's clearly not because that person does something way off the wall for them not to be. But yeah, her way of getting there is very different.
Yeah, and Marv sort of has an explanation because he's
Yeah,
riding with that gal and she wants to go to San Francisco to go to the conference. And then at the conference, she shoots the guy.
right. And her ex husband is like a mafia, like what captain or something. Like
Yeah,
he's, and then poor Marv gets shot twice. That's
twice in the
almost like,
same day.
yeah,
And I have a problem with that because Marv is a doctor, right? He's
yeah,
introduced as a doctor. He gets shot twice, once in the arm and once in the butt.
yeah,
And when he gets shot in the arm, it's Barb that pulls the bullet out of his arm. And then it's
mhm,
just like it sounds like he just needs a band-aid to cover up the
yeah,
hole. And then
right,
gets shot in the butt later by a hunting rifle. And then he has that Sherman guy
yeah,
just pull the bullet out, and again, he's fine.
yeah.
Like, if you were a doctor, you are not letting that happen.
No, not at all. It's reading the book when scenes like that happen. I would love to see that on screen. Like this would be a fun movie to
This
watch.
would be a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, like that. Some of these scenes were really like that would I was just kind of cracking up when I read this because I was like I had to read it again because I was like, did he just get shot again?
Twice in the same day.
Twice in the same day. No, I enjoyed this one. Yeah. I'm trying to think what other notes do I have from here?
DB Cooper's name is Peter Lynn Sherman.
Yes. Which is not a name that we've come across as any of the suspects. Obviously, she made it up, but I was trying to find some kind of reference.
I was trying to think of what this name could be, but all I thought of was, of course, his middle name is Lynn.
Yeah. And well, did you pick up in the beginning on page 34? She talks about the woman was sure her uncle had done it and was catfighting with the one who maintained it was her husband that did it. And I was wondering
Yes,
if that was a fight between Marla and Joe.
absolutely. I loved that. Because she's obviously on the forums. I mean, you could
Oh,
get
yeah.
on there and see Lynn on those. I
Yeah.
don't think she posts much at all anymore, but I guarantee you she's still checking them.
Oh, yeah. Like and you said she came to a CooperCon,
I don't
or
know if she did or not.
I
Maybe she
bought
did.
her book. I bought this book at CooperCon 23. I don't think she was there. It was an pile of books that Bruce was selling. I think he had like a couple different books, including his. And that's where I actually bought this one. Was at CooperCon 23.
I love the cover, except for one thing.
Uh huh.
The 727 has three engines.
But that's just us being brats about it.
Yeah,
No, I agree. I agree though. Yeah, because I mean, I want a parachute, right? I agree though. I want my covers to be accurate, but it is fiction. It's fiction.
it is fiction.
Yeah.
Although I do love that they're on November 24th, 71, they go to the airport. They get a ticket for that. And then they're like,
Yeah.
we're not getting on the plane, though. We're not going to
Right.
get on the plane. That's ridiculous. We're not going to do it. And then for some reason, she can't take a picture.
Right.
And also, she can't figure out how to turn the shutter noise off the phone.
Right. Put
That
it on
bugs me.
vibrate. Yeah. Well, it's like one of those movies where like really seriously, you don't know how to do this. Don't go in the closet kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You
that. Don't
can't
go
get the
down in the basement. Of
right.
course, you're not going in the basement right now.
Yeah. Yeah. She couldn't get the picture. Then they end up on the plane. And she has so many times to get a picture. And she ends up with all these other pictures, except for ones of him.
Including one of someone's bulge. Which
Yes.
I do have to mention this for a book written by a gal, there are hundreds of references to testicles in
Yes.
every way, shape, and form, with every phrase, every slang term.
Some I'd never heard of.
Yeah, from yams to cojones
Yeah.
to ball sack.
Yeah. There were lots. Yeah. I did though. I thought the plane part was really fun because Marv doesn't want to be on the plane. He hates flying, and she just wants to figure out who this person is and wants to stay on as long as possible. So
Oh,
that
yeah,
was an
even
interesting take.
when they let the hostages off, she's like, I'm gonna stay. And so she goes back and tells Cooper, like, hey, I trained all these gals, so I'm gonna stay. And then
Yeah.
he's just like, okay.
Okay.
And he's like, I'll just deal with you instead of Tina.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was really well thought of because she pretends basically she hasn't had her medicine, which is Advil, which hasn't been invented at that time. So
Right.
it's her psychiatric medicine, though. So
From
she doesn't
England.
really. Yes.
Their fancy Advil from England.
Yes. So I really loved that and how she kind of meets him and talks to him. Um, it was a great interaction between those two. And to think that, she had met him in that bar. Wasn't he the friend of Wolfgang?
Yes.
And I did think I hadn't thought about this. Doesn't the Cooper wear a wig? Where did he wear the wig into the airport or into like on his travels to the airport? He actually wore a wig and then he took it off once he got there.
I
That was
thought
a
the wig
good
was for
idea.
like while he was buying stuff.
That's what it was. Yes. Which I thought was a really good idea that I hadn't thought about being, disguising your appearance when you're actually getting everything together, not so much performing the skyjacking itself. I hadn't thought of it in that way.
Right,
That
because he
was a really
buys the
interesting.
suit at a Goodwill
Yeah.
and then goes to like a military surplus store, buys Cochrane boots to put in
Mm-hmm.
his bag.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't she also mention he puts a helmet in there?
I think so. Yeah. 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 She's got in there. Yeah. I think it was just, I love like, oh, did you notice? I just looked down at my notes. Alice's restaurant. Um, we hear the whole Tina bar. Was it for Tina Mucklow, right? And you've got some people who think it was for Tina Mucklow or not. And then I think, a couple of people said, well, if it was Alice's restaurant, then you'd know at least it was, for Alice. So I was like, well, that is a very interesting
I didn't
reference
even
to
pick
that
up on that.
to that TV show. And I was like, wow, who would have thought this would play out later?
I just love like knowing she's a Cooperite, that she writes in that she's going to not only get on the flight, but like talk to him and help run that situation. I
Yeah.
just love that because that's absolutely what I would do. And she tells him like, as long as you jump at the same time that you were
Yeah.
going to anyway, you're totally going to get away with this.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I would say to him too. I'm not staying on after the passengers get off.
Right.
In my fantasy, I'm just going to wink at him and be like, you're going to get away with this, bro.
Torn with that because I feel so bad for all of the passengers and for, Tina and Flo and everyone whose like lives were, you know, so affected by him. So like I'm so torn when it comes to that. Like a part of me just like wants to like take him out, but then I also that kind of adventure part wants to do exactly that and go along for the ride. So that I'm always so torn when it comes to that.
Well, we're also talking about time traveling.
Yeah,
So
right.
morality gets a little loosey-goosey when you travel through time.
In a fictional world. Sure, let's go for it. Let's just jump to.
But the whole overall story of this book is really, really good. I
Mm-hmm.
love that it's an adventure that you follow along through with crazy characters
Yeah.
throughout, doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Although here's one thing I really didn't like.
Uh-huh.
Page 229,
Uh-huh.
when they're on the run, uh, what's her face? Not Buffy.
Funny?
Bunny, yes, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Bunny trades her Barracuda for a different Barracuda of the same color.
Yes.
Why would you do that? Okay, as a
You're a
huge
car
Plymouth
person.
Barracuda fan, I can understand that.
Right.
But if you're on the run, if I'm wanted in 7 states and I'm driving a black Dodge Challenger,
Uh-huh.
am I going to trade that in and get a silver Dodge Challenger? Probably not. I'm probably going to get a minivan or an SUV or a Jeep Wrangler or something completely different.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you're definitely more a car person than I am. But I did read that because I was wondering. I was like, I wonder what Darren's going to say about this sentence here, trading the one color Barracuda for the other color Barracuda. Because for me, I'd kind of like, oh, okay, it's still a fast car. That's cool. Not even thinking the way you're thinking of, yeah, you want to be in a completely different car.
Yeah, not just change the shade of your ride.
But it's a cool car.
It absolutely is a super cool
Yeah.
car.
Yeah. Because she starts off in what, a pink Barracuda? Is that what she said? It's a pink something.
I don't remember the original one, but then she got like a topaz one
Yeah.
when she traded it
She's
in.
got, yeah, she's got like a couple different things that she goes through. And I love the names. I love that when they can buy their airplane tickets, they're Marge and Homer Simpson.
That is so great. I loved that so much. And then when they go to like pretend to be FBI agents in Canada, we're Agents Mulder and Scully.
Yes.
Which
I
I would
enjoyed all of that.
absolutely do that because
Oh,
if I'm traveling back in time, the
yeah,
idea that my wife and I are Homer and Marge, it's a hilarious inside joke for me that nobody else would get.
exactly.
Oh, well,
Not
hello,
at least
Mr.
for
and
me.
Mrs. Simpson. Welcome aboard. And every time
I
somebody
loved
called
it.
me Homer Simpson, I would laugh inside like, this guy
Right.
thinks I'm Homer Simpson.
Right. And what like it was so fun to read. And it's not an incredibly long book. It's less than 300 pages. But I did like I loved the thought of not changing the past, and they did actually change a couple things that changed their memories of the past. So like I really like the way she wrote it and what she thought about during the writing of that.
But some of the changing the past stuff is sad.
I know it is. But I
Like he
mean, you
tells his
can't.
brother not to drink and drive when he goes downtown,
Yeah.
but then his brother still gets in an accident and is in a coma for 30 years. And
Yeah.
then I almost got choked up when he says, and then I watched my brother die for the second time in my life. It's like,
Yeah.
ouch.
Yeah, that was really hard. But I think she had to bring some reality into it, some seriousness of what they are doing. And there's no better way to do that than hit you in the gut with something like that.
And back to drinking. Valerie's dad and his brother both die in drunk driving accidents.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's there's not that much drinking throughout this book, but everyone's
No.
smoking pot.
Everyone.
Everyone is smoking pot, which is pretty interesting. I wasn't alive in 1971,
No, me either.
but I can't imagine it was as prevalent as they made it sound in this book. Because even when she gets to Portland, she's like frustrated that no one will sell her weed because she's a woman.
Right. But they'd sell it to the man.
Right. And then she talks to Barb and she's like, oh, I could help you out with that.
Right. Okay. So the way she writes Barb and her Barb's lines and her reaction, I think was spot on.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Especially that scene where she sort of lets that man grope her and she's like,
Yeah.
knock it off, jerk. And he keeps going and she was like wearing a fake wiener under
Yes.
her skirt and he reaches for it and then she like slams a couple heads together and was like, you guys get the hell out of here.
Yeah. It was,
That
it's
sounds like Barb.
absolutely. And for that, I loved how much she was a Cooperite and could fully give these characters life that
She
was true to
1 million
themselves.
percent read The Legacy of DB Cooper, Death by Natural Causes. She
Yes,
definitely has
absolutely.
read the book on Barb.
Yes. It
Because, like you
was
said, the
spot on.
personality, the voice, what she would say, how she would act was
Yes.
exactly how I imagined Barb to be.
Yeah. Every single interaction when she goes looking for her, everything is spot on Barb. And I loved every single minute of that because we all know I have a soft spot for Barb.
If if you had read this book and
Huh.
you didn't know anything about DB Cooper, how much would you enjoy it considering most of it's going over your head?
I don't know. That's a really good thought because I think I felt really connected because we know these characters, we know these people. So we felt like they were kind of friends in a way. And we were like, oh, that is something that they would say. Whereas if I didn't know any of this, I don't know. I may not have enjoyed it as much being if I were outside the vortex. What do you think?
I was thinking about that while I was reading it because in the very beginning she says, like before the book starts, it's like, you may recognize some of the characters in this book, although I've changed some of their names. And if you didn't know that, would it be as interesting? I don't know the answer to that. The story's still really good, but
Yeah.
you and I got so much more from it than
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't know DB Cooper.
I agree. Like, I think we were in on all of the inside jokes in a way, all of these little things you know about. Whereas I think if someone were just knew who DP Cooper was, but didn't know any of these characters, wouldn't have gotten excited with Barb in a bar and Wolfgang and all of these different things. I don't think they would have picked up on the Cochrane boots or all of this stuff that we're like, oh my gosh, there it is kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you would have gotten as much out of it. I think it's definitely a Cooperite book.
Oh yeah, she wrote it for the Vortex.
Yeah.
Or she didn't write it for the Vortex, but if you're in the Vortex, then it's definitely for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe I've had this book for like a year and a half and I hadn't even opened it. And I feel so bad for that now.
Yeah, me too. I've had it for probably 5 years because I bought it as soon as it came out
Yeah.
and
Oh, when
hadn't
did
read
it
it.
come out? I didn't look at that.
2019,
Okay. Okay. So not too long
or
ago.
it came out early 2020, but she wrote it in 19.
Okay.
Yeah, mine says 2019.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah, I think the references were awesome. I love, some of the stuff I remember from childhood, some of the things she would say, like little stupid things, like when she was when they were the Avon salespeople and they were talking about selling the skin so soft because it was an insect repellent.
And
And
you know
I
what's
remember,
crazy? I read that And then I
Uh-huh.
was listening to this podcast called Are You Garbage? And for whatever reason, they started talking about Avon. And then they were like, oh, yeah, that skin's so soft. We used to use it as insect repellent. And I'm like, what? I just read a book where it talked about Avon Skin So Soft being used as mosquito repellent. I'm like,
That's vortexy
what
for
are
you.
the odds of that?
That's real life for me. I remember being a kid slathered in Skin So Soft. Like you always had a bottle of Skin So Soft everywhere, and that
See,
was your
that must
insect
have been like an East Coast thing because the people on
maybe.
the show were East Coast.
Oh, that's true.
They were
Yeah,
from
I mean,
Philadelphia.
do you guys have like a really, I don't know the West Coast. Obviously, I know it's kind of rainy and dreary, but do you guys have mosquito problems
Oh
or?
yeah, tons of mosquitoes in the Pacific Northwest, but and there's also Avon, but
Yeah.
I never heard of Avon Skin
Wow.
So Soft,
Yeah, it's
and
got
my
to be East
grandma was
Coast.
like a huge Avon fan.
Oh, yeah. No, that was like straight up. Everyone had Skin So Soft. Like that was the thing. So maybe it was an East Coast thing.
It must have
That's
been. I've never heard of anyone using that as a mosquito repellent. I've never heard of it before then. If I didn't hear that podcast, I would have thought maybe it's a made up
really.
product by Avon.
I can smell it. I can like that is a smell that you, and it's not a bad smell, but like when your body has been covered in it as a child, you do not forget that smell.
Why is it an insect repellent?
I have no clue, but it's better for even like DEET and stuff. But I don't know. Maybe it's because it's oily because it is. It's kind of like an oil. So I don't know if there's anything in it that is actually like I think this is just like a oh well it's also good. Not only does it moisturize your skin, it's also good for this kind of thing. It wasn't made to be like an insect repellent. So it must be because it's oily. That's something I don't know. It's just one of those things your parents always put on you as a kid.
I'm probably going to get a bunch of emails tomorrow that are like, hey, we use Skin So Soft on the West Coast as a mosquito repellent. But I truly have never heard of that product and never
That's
heard
so
of it
funny.
being used as an insect repellent.
That is so, it's got to be East Coast then. Because if you ask me, name one Avon product, that's going to be the first one I name. Because that's, I mean, that was always the top of your Avon order. Skin so
Skin
soft.
So Soft.
It had the SS, like the three S's down the side of the bottle. Yeah. So that I did enjoy that. So that is interesting. It's so funny how in the US we're all one, but yet our the lifestyles are so very different. East Coast, West Coast, even kind of there in the Midwest and stuff. It's always funny to see how all the different cultures are.
Oh, yeah, it's a big place.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay, what else do we have?
I thought it was interesting on page 259.
Mm-hmm.
Marv's dad beats his mom, quote, within an inch of her life for singing along to the radio.
Yeah, Marv had a rough life.
Marv did had a pretty rough life. But
Yeah,
the idea that I'm going to beat my wife for singing along to the radio is so crazy.
yeah, but there are people out there like that, and she goes back. She gets better and then she goes back.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's unfortunate. Like, I think it's a look into like the part of society that we never want to think about that really does happen. Yeah, I felt so bad for Marv. Like, reading about his childhood, I just like there was nothing good for him to go back to in 71 except for to see his brother again. And then that turned out bad in the end.
Okay, let's embarrass you, Nicole.
Yeah.
Pronounce Marv's last name.
Oh, hang on. What page is it on there? It's in the beginning.
I didn't
I
write the
know it.
page number, but I read his
I
last
know
name several times,
exactly.
and I'm like, I don't know how to say that.
Okay. Well, let's see. Did we um Marvin Engelbert? Well, let's see. I would say Nimene.
I'll go with that because I don't even have a
Nimene.
guess.
It's page 850. Page 50.
Page 50.
So he went by Jamie Jameson, right? Well, the E is before the I. I'm trying to phonetically figure that out. Nimne. Nimne? We need to ask her. What is we need to message her and have us
I don't even
send
see it on page 50, you liar.
at the very top. Have you seen her?
That's not page 50.
Yeah, it is. I promise.
What the
Did
heck's
we read
going
the same
on?
book?
Here's
Oh.
my page 50.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, my 50 is page 3, chapter 3. Have you seen her? Well, find chapter 3. Have you
Okay,
seen
now
her?
this bothers me so much because now I have to get another copy of this book because chapter 3 for me starts on 52.
Well, what pages did I miss then? That means I missed 2 pages.
What the heck?
Yeah, because my page 50 is chapter 3. But anyway,
Okay,
if you get to chapter
in my
3,
book,
yeah.
the title page, the first page in the book, is listed
Uh-huh.
as page 1.
So is mine.
Okay.
All right.
Well, then how the
So,
heck do we have different page numbers?
okay, is your chapter 2 on page 30?
No, 32.
Okay, so it's happened before then. Is your chapter 1 on 14?
No, it's on 16. Page 14 and 15 is the prologue.
Mine is 12 and 13. And then the 48 years pre-prologue starts on 6 and
That
goes to
starts on
11.
8 for me.
Okay, so you've got 2 extra pages in the beginning.
Page 7 is a dedication. Do you have that on page 9 then?
My dedication is 5.
What the heck is going on here?
So
Author's notes and acknowledgement. Do you have a table of contents?
No, I don't.
I do have a table of contents.
So I do this, and then I go straight into that.
I'm so angry your book's different than mine.
And into there.
So I have a table of contents is the difference. It's on page 3 and 4.
Yeah, and see, my 3 and 4 are the author's notes.
And what's that stamp you have on page 2?
The publishing.
I do not have that. Gosh darn it. I hate it when I don't have every version of the book.
All right, so you're going to need to buy another one. So that probably means, so like my book is, the book itself is 281 pages. So that means yours is longer than that.
Mine's 288.
How did you get so many extra pages? Well, I mean,
don't know. The table of contents accounts for 2.
Yeah, but
do you
I mean,
have
like,
an about the author page?
I mean, like that page is 2. I mean, I still have a couple pages behind it.
287 is my final page. And then 288 is about the author.
284.
I don't have that Facebook page.
Yeah, and then this is my...
I don't have more books by the publisher. What the heck is going on here?
Okay, Okay, so on the very back of my book, it does say that this book was previously published in 2019. So maybe you have like the first edition, even though mine says 2019.
On the bottom left corner of the back page, mine says published by KGHH Publishing.
On the very back, on this page? No.
Oh, see, yeah, you have right below her picture, Dream Edge Publisher, Dreams Edge Publishing. Yeah, that's not the same publisher as mine.
Yeah, so our page numbers then are going to completely be wrong when we reference.
Okay, I'm making a note of this so I can get... So now doing this book review show, I know there's 2 books I need to get. The unrevised Into the Blast.
Yeah.
And the other version. And what was that publisher? Dreams Edge Publishing?
Dream Edge. I think check with Bruce, because I think Bruce might have some of these. Because that's where I bought this, was CooperCon. So he may have those. But yeah, so my page 30. So I guess that is your page, or my page 50, which is your page 54.
52.
52 has his name. That is interesting. Okay, yeah, really so our notes are completely off then. So when we
yeah, because all my page numbers would be at least 2 pages.
Yeah.
after yours.
Different from, yeah. Well, it's the gist. We know the about the area of
Did
the
the
book.
pages in your book feel thicker than your average book?
Yes.
Okay, mine did too, and I really liked that.
I did too. Because at first I was like, did I just skip a page? Like I kept going back
I did that a bunch of
looking at the
times.
numbers, and I'm like, no, that's the right number. I'm
Yeah, it's
still on the
just
right
really
page.
thick paper.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really, I like it. I love the reference because what do they sing Cage the Elephant to get back to 2019,
Yeah, and
which
then
I
they
loved.
they walk out the window and Cage the Elephant's playing, and then another nearby car, Katy Perry, is blasting through the windows.
Right? I it's great. I wish she would write a follow up to this because I want to know what happens to Roma when they go back in time. Roma and Wayne.
It is set for a follow-up. They go on
Yeah.
some 1920s mystery.
Yeah. Like I want to know more about. I would read that. I need her to get on that. Because she did write another book, but I don't think it has to do with this.
What's the other book?
Um, is that in the front or the back? She wrote The Jackal's Gambit. No, that's more books by the publisher. Never mind. Maybe she didn't write another book. Hopefully, she's writing what happens to Roma and Wayne in the 1920s.
All right, she has 3 books on Amazon.
Oh.
One might not be her. I can't tell.
Uh,
But it looks like The Man Who Had Everything, The Man in 18E, and one that may or may not be her called True Crime of Love and Passion, which I'm not sure that one's her because it doesn't really fit
right.
with
Yeah.
the other two. The cover looks way different. And it would have come out around the exact same time as The Man in 18E, so I don't
Oh,
know how
yeah.
many people are releasing 2 books within a month of each other.
Yeah. Probably not. Well, then I need her to write. I need the follow up to this. I want to know what happens to Roma and Wayne because they were my two favorite people in this book.
Yeah, and having read this, I would read the story of them
Yeah.
finding, because are Valerie and Marv going to go back and find them to help
Right.
solve that mystery?
Exactly. And then how do you get back from the 20s? Or like, first, how would you go back to the 20s if there's no TV? Like, what are they going to use to get back there with the Metello phone?
That's a good question. How did Roma go back to 1920? They
Yeah.
just said she used the portal in the apartment, or that
Right.
the apartment is a portal.
That is the portal. Yeah. So I want to know about that. Like that's, I think I would definitely read it. I had fun reading this one. And it was such like a refreshing book after we finished Ha Ha Ha.
Definitely. And I don't know if part of me not being able to get right into it in the beginning was because, like, in the same day I put down Ha 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 and was like, I'm going to start on the next one just to wipe the slate clean.
Yeah.
So I don't know if part of that was me just being like, ugh,
Yeah.
when I picked up the book.
Yeah, I did kind of feel like that a little bit because there were so many references to testicles in it, like especially in the beginning and after what we had just read. So I think in the beginning I was like, oh gosh, even more. Like I don't know how much of this I can handle. But then it totally changed. It got way. So I feel you on that. I know what you were
Yeah, and
thinking.
none of them are obscene. It's just
No.
jokes.
Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
funny. Like, if I would love to go through this book and count the number of times testicles are mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, the way she writes is hilarious, and I would like to actually meet her. I would hope she would come to a CooperCon. It would be fun to have a conversation with her.
But right before we started this, I was just searching the DB Cooper forum
Uh-huh.
for posts by her to see, like, did she promote this on there? And she didn't. She didn't really promote it. Bruce promoted it more than she did on the
Okay.
forum. But she did write something on there like, send her a DM if you want your book signed. And I was like, I'm gonna do that now.
Yes. Well, now that we know there's a second version, that we have different versions, I'm going to ask for a signed print of your version. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess which one would I want signed? I'd probably have mine signed.
Yeah.
It's weird that the publisher changed, but I understand that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was such a fun read. I love the scenarios that she goes into. Um, it was just, as a fashion person, when she described her outfit, I could totally see it, and I was a little jealous that she had it. The blue coat with the hood, with the fur, and the skirt and the black turtleneck and the square toe shoes. I could see it. I was in love. But
I
that's girl.
I loved that she was like dressing hip in 1971, and then she's
Mm-hmm.
like, "This really isn't appropriate for a woman in her 50s, but in 1971, I don't really look 50 anymore,"
Right?
which is absolutely true.
Yeah, yeah. Like it was. I if her personality is in any way the way that she writes, I think she would be a really fun person to hang out with.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there. I mean, I loved Bunny. I mean, Bunny was hilarious. It was just funny, and I didn't realize pinball was illegal for a while. I did learn that
Well,
from the
I don't
book.
think pinball was illegal. It was
Okay.
gambling on pinball.
Okay. Okay. Because when I read that sentence, I had to read it a couple times and then I had to like Google, like, was pinball really illegal?
No, I think there were just places where you could
Okay.
go and it'd be like, "Hey, I'll bet you $500 I win this game of pinball against you," or the house
Gotcha.
says if you score over 500,000 points, then you get $50, but it's $5 to play or something like that.
Okay.
I've never
Okay.
gambled on pinball, so I don't
Neither
know
am
exactly
I.
how that would work, but I know that there was gambling involved with pinball.
Okay. Well, I'm sure, I guess there's been gambling involved with every sport at some point or some kind of game. No, I love what was it when they went to cross the border? They stopped at that commune from Roma and Wayne's friends
Oh, with
right
all
there
the
on the
naked people?
yes.
And then Marv was like, I'm not going to get naked. Not that I have anything to hide. It's just not really my style. And then he describes like that one Wayne's schlong as like a puffed up sausage.
Yes. Yeah, he was kind of like, I'm not going to be here long enough to get undressed. I've got
Yeah.
to be on my way. Yeah, everything in the book I think felt true to that time, and just fun. And I think it's definitely a book for Cooperites for sure.
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorite parts was when she decides to go talk to Barb, and Barb had already quit from the restaurant.
Yeah.
She runs into her at that cigar shop. Barb's angry that she's looking for her, which Barb would have definitely
Oh,
been.
100%.
And then she pretends to be like psychic or have the gift. And
Right.
then Barb's like, "This is all baloney. Like, I don't believe you. Why should I believe you?" And she's like, "Take me to a bookie and I'll prove it to you."
Right.
And Barb's like, "Okay, let's go see my bookie."
Yeah, it's I- Barb in this book is just perfection. It's how I would love to hear like the foreman's take on it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Like
I'm,
and
you know what? I'm gonna email Tammy about that.
yeah. I would love to hear what they think about the Barb in the book. And I wonder if they had I wonder if she talked to the foremans or maybe just read. I mean, because I've read Barb's book, and I mean, it does describe Barb perfectly and how she would respond to things. So maybe she did just read the book, but I do wonder what the foremans think about her character. I think it's perfect.
I'll reach out to Tammy. I bet you they've already read it.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, of course we know about that. We talked to her and she loved our book and she told us that she was going to include Barb."
Yeah. It's and two of my, I do like Wolfgang. I don't think it's Wolfgang, but I do like him. He's an interesting person. Like if I had favorite Cooper people that I didn't think were quite Cooper, Wolfgang would be in there. He's an interesting character.
I still have high hopes for Wolfgang, but it's also just like I love Barb. It's
Yeah.
my opinion is very biased on Wolfgang because I like him so
Yeah.
much.
the Mormon angle, the exorcism video that you can watch on YouTube. He had a
Yeah.
paranormal radio show. Clyde Lewis says that Wolfgang Gossett was his mentor.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much wacky stuff with Wolfgang that I could just never let him go as a suspect.
No, no, I think he definitely stays like towards the top of my just favorite people in the case for sure. So I love that those were the two that she picked to be in here. That was really fun reading about all of that. Yeah.
Okay, now if we can critique the accuracy of a fictional book,
Okay.
she goes to all these bookies, or if the first time she proves to someone else that she knows something by like
Mm-hmm.
just looking up the scores. Did she know she was going to time travel? Because do you have the sports scores from the days before the hijacking in your phone saved in your notes?
No,
Me
no.
neither. And I
That is
tried to think
something. Yeah.
about like if I got dropped randomly into a previous year,
Mhm.
how good would I be at remembering who won the game? And I would be
Never.
very bad at it. I
Yeah.
think I could do okay with Super Bowls, but when I say
Oof.
okay, I would be like 75%.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
would have to know at least which teams were playing that year.
yeah, because I'm as a Trailblazers fan, in 71, they're gonna play the Bucks. Okay, Darren, you're from the future. Who wins this game? I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I truly don't know. I couldn't. Last year's Trailblazers season, there would be two or three games from like, I know we won this one. This is a nail biter. I remember this game.
Right.
But most of the games be like, I think we lost this one, but I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure.
No, I think that's good. That was a really good pickup. And I think as someone who's not a huge like sports person, I think it did kind of cross my mind of like, how did she have this stuff on her phone? But I just didn't really pay attention to like the score so much. It was just kind of, I was so in the book that I wasn't even thinking,
Well,
oh,
she
yeah,
says that she has it in her notes
yeah,
because she doesn't have service, obviously.
right.
So
So
she
why
can't
would you have
Google
that?
November 19th, 71 sports scores.
No. And she was because she was watching a bunch of the shows on her phone. So it's not like any of that would be with sports scores in it. So you're right. Like it makes sense of why we question why she would have something like that on her phone if she didn't know she was going to accidentally time travel back to 71. That's a good
But
thought.
is she such a Cooperite that she has notes of everything that happened from
Oh,
November 12th to December 2nd of 1971 just written in her
maybe,
phone?
maybe she was that kind of researcher who
But
kept everything.
in a 3 week period, boy, is that a lot of notes of sports scores to keep track of.
Absolutely. A
Because
hundred
that time of
percent.
the year, you have basketball, football, and hockey going on all at the same time.
Yeah, tons. And yeah, baseball's done by then. Yeah, no, it's a lot to have on her phone. Yeah, and the fact that she's more concerned about finding Cooper than getting money. That is
As a Cooperite, I might be the opposite way. Like, I'm going to go tell my dad to invest in these companies real quick,
right.
and then I'm going to go find DB Cooper.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got a little extra time. She was there a couple days early. She had some time to spare. She
They
could have
did both go visit their parents.
They did. Yeah, because what she saw her mom first and then went to see her dad um at work, I think, right? And
Yeah,
then
he got off work and then they went to get a burger.
yeah. That would have been to be interesting. I don't know. I think I would probably have a hard time if I went back in time not wanting to change something to keep them here longer. That would be really hard.
Especially when you knew something bad happens.
Yeah. Like I think I would have a hard time not, being like, hey, don't go do this, or, why don't you do that? Or, you know,
Yeah,
hey,
I'd go find my Grandpa George. You have to stop smoking right now.
right.
Right now, you have to stop smoking.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I would have a really hard time. It would be hard not to go see them, but going to see them, I'd have a hard time to be like, don't do this because this is going to happen, and just let life happen like it's supposed to. I'd have hard time, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because you also run into that thing where they even mention it in the book, like if we go talk to our parents, are we going to come back and the Berlin Wall is still up and the United States
Right.
is a territory of Japan?
Yeah. Yeah. Very much butterfly effect stuff happening. Yeah, absolutely. Like you don't know what you're going to come back to. Like, it's a good thought, but it would make me want to probably stay in the past maybe a little bit longer.
I think I would want to stay in the past a little bit longer too, but I don't know, you're gone in the real world seemingly that same amount of time in this time travel scenario
Yeah.
because they're missing for
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
It's
Because
not
she
like
tells her
Back to the
mom.
Future where they come back 4 minutes after they traveled through time and we're gone a month.
Yeah. They've been missing for what, like a week? Almost a week?
Yeah, because it's what, the 17th to the, or is it the 15th to the 24th?
Yeah, I think
Something
it's
like
the
that.
15th. Yeah. They're gone for a while. Enough time that Marv can drive across country with
Yeah,
Bunny and stop at the seminar for her to shoot the man.
right. And that's another escaping scenario where it's just like, come on. She shoots a guy in a crowded conference room that admittedly there are a bunch of police officers in, but
Right.
hilariously they're too fat to chase on foot, but they're really good drivers.
Yes,
But
right.
luckily Bunny starts driving through yards, and I love when
Right.
she's like, and then we drove through this stoner party that was having a barbecue, and they just
Right.
looked at us and waved as we drove from their backyard into their driveway and back on the road.
Yeah, I mean it's a great story. It's just fun to read. But and I think I mean I don't know, I wasn't there in 71, but you kind of think, well, maybe life was like that a little bit in a
I think
way.
so. I like to think so, at least.
Yeah. I would say, would you time travel if you could?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Would you worry about getting back home though?
Well, in the scenario that they're in, I would worry about getting back
Right.
home when they're sort of unsure how they time traveled in the first place.
Yeah.
If it's more of a DeLorean type situation, then I'm not so worried about it. But I'd probably be most worried about what is going to change when I get back.
Yeah.
Like, am I still going to have kids?
Yeah.
Is my life still going to be the same? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? Like, whatever positive things could happen could change what I like about my life.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's I mean because there's so many you think about that and I think it's been like the plot line for so many different movies and TV series. And what was the Stephen King one about the JFK assassination? Like
Isn't that? Yeah,
1123?
that's a good one with James Franco.
It's really good.
And just like in Lynn's book, they talk about, oh, I grabbed a tuna fish salad sandwich in a
Yes.
plastic wrapper, and it was the best thing I've ever tasted. And it was from a
Yeah.
gas station. And just like in that Stephen King one, he gets that piece of cherry pie, and he's
Yeah.
like, this is amazing. And they even tell him before, like, when you go back, the food's all going to be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really
Well, we
interesting. Is our food bad now?
I
I
think we
want
have
to
so
eat
many
food from
preservatives.
I want to eat food from the 60s or 70s now.
Yeah. Well, it was fresher then. We're not like trying to keep it for so long and package it up and keep it for so, make sure it doesn't expire. So food was probably delicious. It was fresher.
It's
But
interesting they did have that same idea that food tasted better back
yeah.
then.
But when I was reading that, I was totally thinking about that series in the back of my head, the Stephen King one
You know,
about,
it actually crossed my mind too, that cherry pie scene in the diner in the beginning of it.
yeah, that was a really good series. I don't know, what time would you go back to if you could time travel?
November 24th, 1971.
Besides that one.
Besides that, I want to see what was going on in ancient Egypt.
Oh, that would be a good one.
That's what I want to see. How'd they do it? What were they doing?
Uh-huh.
What were things like?
Like the pyramids.
Yeah,
Were the aliens there, or were they just really good at
exactly. But that's also one of
geometry?
those things where I come back and I'm like, okay, it was aliens that built the pyramids. And just like if I went back and watched the crucifixion,
Right.
the people that believe will believe me, the people that don't believe won't believe me.
Oh yeah.
So there's 2 or 3% that I could sway with my time travel experience. But
It would just be a personal thing, I think. It would just be for you. It would be your satisfaction of what happened, I guess. That's a good one. I hadn't thought about Egypt during that time. There's so many things I'd want to go back and see, I think.
I think of a lot of concerts I would like to go to.
Oh gosh, right? Especially if you can time travel to different countries too. That's completely that opens up so much.
Yeah, because if you're time traveling in DeLorean, getting to Europe or Egypt is very difficult.
Right? Well, gosh, I mean, where would you hide the car in Egypt? That would be hard.
It would be really hard. There isn't even a road, probably.
Let's hope you have all the fuel that you need to get back home.
Right, and we learned in Back to the Future Part 3, if you don't have gasoline, you're screwed.
Right? I don't think I've seen the third one. I've seen the first one and the second one.
The third one is fantastic. It is truly fantastic. It's a great, great Western.
Okay, maybe that's why I didn't see it. I'm not a huge Western person, but I'll have to.
But it is a Western with a DeLorean and time traveling in it, so
that makes it completely different. I might have to try that then. But I think that's probably why I never saw it. I'm just not a Western person.
But I just had this conversation with a friend at work. We were talking about Deadwood and how there's so much like modern cursing in that show that wouldn't have taken place. But if you watch Back to the Future Part 3, the curses that they use in that are more like what they would have been saying. Like, you egg-sucking gutter trash. Like, the weird curses.
Right.
That would have been slang in, 1855 or whenever that takes place.
Yeah. Interesting. I've never seen, I think Westworld is the only thing I've seen that's kind of set in that time period. And it really isn't fully in that time period.
Right. It's somehow in the future and a Western.
Yeah. So I have seen that, but I haven't seen Deadwood or Yellowstone or anything like that. I heard horses don't have long lives in Yellowstone, so I've never seen it. I've do animal things.
Yellowstone either.
Yeah, I don't do animal things. So
if there is a dead horse in Back to the Future Part 3. It's
okay. I'm out.
You don't see the horse die, but he finds Doc Brown. Now I'm talking about Back to the Future, but he finds Doc Brown and he's like, "Hey, my horse threw a shoe." And he's like, "Well, then bring it back. I'll reshoe him." And he's like, "I done shot that horse. So the way I see it, you owe me $75 for the horse and $5 for the whiskey I spilled."
I don't know. Ooh. Even though you don't see it, I have such a hard time with that stuff. I'm just going to go by what you tell me about the movie. That's it. I don't feel like, maybe it's not for me now. I'm backed out.
You square. It's a great movie.
Okay, I'm going to trust you on that. If it didn't have animals in it, I'd be in. Once you put an animal in there, I'm out.
There's only talk of shooting a horse. I don't think you actually see him shoot the horse.
Yeah.
Because I think that takes place before the movie starts.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe I'll skip to like 20 minutes in. I'll skip that part.
Well, sometimes I already told you the line. It's just that one line. I shot the horse that threw a shoe.
Is there anything I'm going to learn from that movie?
No. No, okay. But it's a fantastic movie.
I'll trust you on that one.
That's like saying, what am I going to learn from Blade Runner?
Oh, but I have seen Blade Runner.
Yeah, you didn't learn anything, but it's great.
No, it is a good movie. Which doesn't have animals in it. But yeah, no, but did you think for a little while, who was she talking about that I almost thought about Kenny Christensen? Was it when she was talking a little bit about Peterson with the hairline and stuff? Do you remember that part? That was something I didn't make a note of, and I wish I had. But when she was describing one of the people with the, because he got contacts, the Cooper in the book. Right. Peter Lynn Sherman. He went and got contacts. So maybe that's what I was thinking too, with the blue eyes, that maybe she was referencing someone else and I couldn't quite put my finger on who it was.
I'm not sure. That didn't cross my mind, but there would have been talk, I think. Blevins always was like, well, maybe he wore contacts and wore lifts in his shoes. So maybe she was sort of poking at that a little bit.
Yeah. It was fun. I'm trying to think if I have any other notes on it. It was just really good. She bought her clothes from the Goodwill, right? Because she bought a gray wig as well at some point before she actually had her hair fixed. Oh, and when Marv calls Bunny to come get them in Reno, she tells her that they're Uncle Mario and Luigi and Princess Peach.
Yes.
That something happened to Uncle Mario. So her references are just so fun.
And I would definitely do that,
Yeah.
traveling back in time, because it is a hilarious joke for you and for no one else.
Oh, absolutely. But you would wonder if someone in the future was like, oh yeah, I was on an airplane with Marge and Homer Simpson, and here are the Simpsons. I wonder, if that had, like, really happened. Like if the
Right,
people are
because
like,
she's going into the cockpit, and then
yeah,
Marv is like, she's just crazy. She's multiple personality, needs her Advil from England.
yeah,
But then the FBI files would be full of this Marge and Homer Simpson. They were
right.
star witnesses, then vanished.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there is a Richard Simmons that's on the passenger list.
A Richard Simmons and a Michael Cooper.
Yeah, yeah. So, maybe it wouldn't have been so hard to get past if there was a Marge and Homer Simpson, because we do have to clarify when we talk about the Richard Simmons that it's not the Richard Simmons that switched to the oldies. So
And
it would just
they
be
sat exactly where I pictured myself sitting,
in
right
front
in front
of,
of Bill Mitchell.
yeah, yeah. Well, you'd have a really good spot right there. That is true. I hadn't really thought about where I would put myself on the plane. If I got on the plane, where would I sit? That is a good spot in front of them. Yeah.
Or I would sit directly in front of him, but I feel like then he'd feel like I was encroaching in his space too much. Because if you're sitting on an airplane and you and I are talking about baseball, the
Yeah,
person in front of us is going to hear every single thing we say perfectly clearly.
that's true. But you could also hear everything he was going to say.
Yes.
I mean, you would be in a different situation when everyone had to move up in the airplane. Like then you were kind of like, oh, well, okay, that was fun while it lasted. But before then, you might be able to get some good info. I love how she was telling Marv, okay, this is what's going to happen. Okay, there goes Flo to the cockpit. I feel like that would be us if we were on the plane with a family member who didn't know the story as well.
Oh, absolutely. Although I didn't really like that Valerie gets up and announces to Alice before
Yeah.
she finds out that the hijacking started.
Yes.
That part I didn't like because I'm like, he has to announce the hijacking,
Yeah.
not you.
I worried when that happened that the book was going to go somewhere different because of like the butterfly effect.
That's
When,
what, when I read that, that was my first thought too. Oh my
yeah.
gosh, this hijacking is going to go differently.
Yeah. I worried when she got back, was she going to be in an apocalyptic kind of world? So I did you're right, when she did get up and do that, I was like, and told her that she was a sky marshal, but not armed. I was like, I don't know, would I have done that? I was almost like, sit back down, Val, sit back down, just enjoy the ride.
And in 1971,
Mm-hmm.
if someone came up to me that was a middle-aged woman and said, I'm a sky marshal, no, you're not. You
No,
are not a sky marshal.
no,
It's not believable in 71. If it
no,
happens today,
right.
I'm like, okay, whatever you
Yeah,
say. You're a sky marshal. I believe you. But
yeah,
in 71, no, you're not. You're not a sky
no,
marshal.
no.
I bet there was zero female sky marshals in 71.
Oh, I think you would win on that bet. Absolutely. I doubt that. I don't even know how many women were probably in any kind of law enforcement at that time.
Very few. I bet the majority would have
Yeah,
been like typists and secretaries and teletype
exactly.
operators.
Yeah, none of them would be any kind of officers or FBI agents or anything like that. I don't think back then. I think that would be something completely different, a different time. Who was the woman who's super famous for the FBI disguises? What years was she in the FBI? She was on an episode when they brought back the show To Tell the Truth. She was on one of those. I can't think of her name, but I don't remember like what year she was.
Jonna Mendez, CIA chief of disguise.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah, that is definitely her. So what years did she? Oh, it looks like she was in the 90s. Is that what you're seeing? No, mid 60s, 1960s.
Yeah, she died in 2019. She started the CIA in 66.
Okay, so I guess there were a few women out there. Yeah, because in the 70s, she was in the Office of Technical Service and worked overseas.
Being an undercover spy seems rough, but being a female undercover spy seems much rougher,
But I don't,
especially in the 60s or 70s. Yeesh.
but don't you think they could have gotten away with more?
Yeah,
It was
but then
unexpected.
when I hear female undercover during that time period, my mind goes to like flirty, fishy kind of thing where she's
Oh,
getting
yeah,
intel by being flirty or being sexual with people, which
right.
that's even more terrifying.
Absolutely. You're going to get yourself in a situation that you may not be able to get out of.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how they worked. There's an author called Kate Quinn, and she writes a couple books. She's kind of like a Dan Brown. So she does ones, I think there's one called the Alice Network, the Rose Code, couple other ones. And what she does is she does a lot of the 1940s, or like World War II female spies that were actually in history. So the stories are written about them, put into a fictional story, but based on them. And it's very interesting how many female spies we had back in World War II because they just weren't expected. No one expected a female spy, and kind of told about what they did. So it's very, I wonder how she did her job based on like reading those books and how those women worked. Because in one of them, I learned what the Rose Code, Kate Middleton's grandmother worked at, oh, where was the Enigma? I don't know why I can't think of it because I've actually been there. The code breaking starts with a B. Bletchley Park.
I
That's where the
definitely wouldn't
Enigma
have
was.
guessed that.
I really know because I went there. And so anyway, Kate Middleton's grandmother was a code breaker at Bletchley, evidently, according to that book, or grandmother or great grandmother or something. Um, so that's why, I wonder kind of how the female spies were in the 70s then, if they had to go that route to get what they needed, or if they had some other method of just not being detected because you weren't expecting a female. You could get away with a little bit more.
Yeah,
Be
that's very
interesting.
true. It's definitely a different angle to approach things from.
Mm-hmm. You're you're expected to be at home with your family in a kitchen, not getting secrets from a foreign country.
Right. All
But no,
right, the man in
yeah,
18E, how many
yeah.
parachutes does it get?
4.
I'm going to give it 3 parachutes
Okay, that's fair.
because it's fiction, number
Yeah,
1.
yeah.
And number 2, it was just the footnotes. It was a little difficult to follow for me in the beginning.
Hmm.
So I'm going to give it 3 parachutes
I think that's fair.
for
That's
an
fair.
average of 3.5 parachutes for the man in 18E.
I think that's fair. That's a fair one.
And I would
I'm
definitely say I wouldn't say it's a must read because it's fiction, but
right.
if you're in the vortex and you like to read, I would definitely recommend this. It's really, really fun. It's an
Yeah,
adventure. It's
it is.
wacky at times. It's serious at times.
Yeah,
It's just fun.
yeah.
And
She
I read it
did
really
a good.
quickly. It wasn't
Yeah.
painful like ha ha ha.
No, I think I read it in a day, maybe a
You
day
read
and
it
a
in a
half.
day? You're nuts. I
Yeah,
read it super quick meaning by that I read it in 2.5 days.
I think I read it Saturday. I think I had started, I was maybe like 70 pages in, and then read the rest of it Saturday. Yeah.
I had I had read like 150, 160 pages.
Hmm.
And then the next day, once I started reading, towards the end, it gets better and better and better.
Yeah.
So once I got started reading after that, I just finished the rest of the book.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't stop once you're in, because once you're there, you're like, oh gosh, what are they going to do? Are
Right.
they
I know
gonna
what's
change
coming. I can't wait
history?
to hear what she
Yeah.
says.
And then I hated it when, they talked about the 1920s, and then we were just like, wait, I want to know more. Like what happened to them? I felt really bad that, you know, something might have, happened to one of them that didn't make it. I was sad. I wanted to know how he died.
Lynn, reach
Yeah.
out to us and tell us when that next book is going to be.
Yes. I'll totally read it.
Or is her other book that sequel? That would be so dumb of us if it's already out.
What was the other book called? It was
The
the man
Man Who
something.
Had Everything.
It did say it was kind of a love story, right?
It is the second in the series.
Is it really?
Yes.
It has Roma
Val and
and
Marv return from their last adventure. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'm ordering it.
I'm
Definitely
ordering as well. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed now that we begged for a sequel and it's out.
You wishes come true. There we go. We asked for it and we received it. It's called
The Man Who Had Everything.
okay.
It's on Amazon for $14.24.
All right, I'm adding it to my cart right now. I'm excited. Yeah, I think it's definitely, like you said, I don't know if it's a must read, but
It's the only reason it's not a must read is because we're talking about DB Cooper here, and this book isn't going to solve the case.
no,
You're not going to learn anything about the case, really. The hijacking facts are actually pretty accurate,
she does really well.
but it's a fictional narrative, so it's not
Yeah.
like you're going to pull that stuff out. But you could tell she's in the vortex based on the
Oh,
information on the Cooper hijacking.
absolutely. I mean, in the beginning, she talked about being in, all of the chat rooms and the forums, and just in her thank you, obviously, she mentioned Shutter, and a couple of these I don't know, like Kermit, and 377. Those are some people I'm not 100% sure of, but they must have been in the drop zone.
377 is Mark Meltzer.
Oh, is that who that is? Okay, because she does mention Andrade.
And Kermit was around for a while, but hasn't
Okay.
been in a long time.
Okay. And I appreciated that she called them by like their names from the drop zone and stuff like that, and not actually. It's kind of like a little inside, like you have to know who these people are.
I like that too. Because
Yeah.
if I'm on the show, I'm going to talk about Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name him.
Right.
I'm going to say Georgia. That's the public name he gave on that forum.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. I mean, she had the comic book references. She knew that he was the second to last aboard, which I think that is true. I think Bill Mitchell was the last, right?
Right, because he was like running for the gate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So for those things, I really appreciated that she knew what she was talking about. Yeah. I think it would be a fun read for people. It'd be a good airplane read on the way to CooperCon.
Absolutely.
I think it would be just enough time, depending on how far you're traveling. It'd be you could finish it on your way there and then get super psyched about CooperCon. Yeah.
And I'm psyched to read the next book.
I know. I can't believe I didn't look that far into it to see. But yeah, it's in my cart now.
It's in my cart as well. And Lynn, I'm sorry I wished for the book that's already out. But I am going to get it. I'm going to get it.
And it's a good cover. It's a fun cover for that one. Like, that's definitely spacey. Like, I'm excited. But hopefully we'll get the same version. And we'll end up with different versions.
It is that Dream's Edge publishing on this one.
Okay. And I wonder, so I bought, where did you buy your book from? Did you buy it from Bruce?
No, I bought it on Amazon right when it came out.
Okay. So you probably have the real first edition, and I just have like the reprinting edition since I got it later. But yeah, I hope she comes to CooperCon. It would be fun to meet her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Give her
I
a high
enjoyed it.
five. Job well done.
Yeah, for sure. I really liked it. She was fun.
All
Yeah.
right, Nicole, you want to do one more episode?
Yeah. What do you want to do?
We got to do two suspect books, right? Because
Uh-huh.
we haven't really done that yet. We did
No.
Into the Blast is a suspect book, but we were doing
Well,
Skyjack, and then that book is associated with Skyjack, so we had to do that.
I mean, I think Into the Blast is more of a how to be on a TV show book. No, that was horrible. I'm not going to be mean. Okay, what suspects are we going to read?
And you don't have the real McCoy.
I don't. I've got, as far as suspect books, I have the Paratrooper Fortune, Skip, The Elusive DB Cooper, Legend of DB Cooper, Death by Natural Causes. Um, those are my only suspect books that I have. Because I think the only other one would be the real McCoy, right? There's the other.
Would you be willing to read a digital version of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see. Someone told me it was on the Internet Archive. Let me see here. I want to do that one just because not a lot of people have read that book.
I've not read it. And a lot of that was because I just didn't want to pay for the book. But if there's a digital copy, then I'll read that.
Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't see it.
Trying to see like um who that
And it's been a
were.
very long time since I've read it.
It's crazy. They're going for $168 and $179.
Which is, I'm such a fool because I paid $11 for mine.
I only see two right offhand for sale. Of course, one is thrift books and the other is eBay.
Wow, there's a signed one on eBay for $3.39.
That's tough. That's tough. Okay, well, if we can find digital,
Oh, I
then
think
we'll
I
do
just
that
found it.
one. Okay, send me the link then.
Yes, on the Internet Archive. Okay, so let's do that one.
Uh-huh.
And then let's go with a more modern one and do Paratrooper of Fortune.
Oh, that one was fun. I'll be excited to read that one again. Okay.
Because Where Was Skip? I've like read that in the last year, so I don't want to reread that.
Yeah.
But Paratrooper of Fortune, whatever year that came out, would have been the last time I read it.
2020. Yeah. This is a fun one. This is a really fun one. I'm going to be excited to read this one again. I was talking to a coworker about this because I'm trying to pull him into the vortex. And he's so funny. When I first started talking about it, I forgot what I was reading. And he comes back and he's like, I got one name for you. And he was like, Richard Ford McCoy. And I was like, no. I was like, go back. You're wrong. No. But it was interesting because he's Vietnamese. So he remembers a lot of, this and his, stories from his family about, all of the Viet Cong and stuff. So we talked a lot about that when I was reading this. So I'm excited to read that. Okay. Yeah. So those are the two.
All right. The Real McCoy and Paratrooper of Fortune.
I like Braden. What do you think about Braden?
Braden's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing you could say is he's slightly on the shorter side, and you can't put him on the plane. But you can't say that about anyone. If I could say, oh yeah, I can absolutely put Skip Hall on the plane, then we're done talking about this case.
Yeah. You can't put anyone on the plane. Skip's a good one.
Skip is a really good one.
Like that one really keeps new stuff keeps coming up.
Yeah, because John's an animal.
Yeah.
John's an absolute animal. And it's always like, hey, I found this. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? And he always, his eyes get excited when he talks.
Yeah, I mean, Skip, that's another one. I would love just to have like a movie just on him, like just his life. Like I think that would be a fun watch. A Braden one would be a fun one to watch.
We need to create a TV series where all of these people are DB Cooper and it leads up to the hijacking. So here's Ted Braden's life up to the hijacking, proving he's DB Cooper. Here's Skip Hall up to the hijacking, proving he's DB Cooper. Here's Barb to the hijacking. And every episode like ends with them walking into the Portland International Airport.
That would be awesome, but they would be really long episodes.
They would be pretty long. I mean, you could just do the highlights, but even
No,
like with
you need all
McCoy and
of it.
Braden, the highlights would be so crazy. And Skip Hall, all of them. It's
Yeah.
the craziest thing about this case is that every single suspect has a crazy, wild story. There are so few where it's like, this is a boring, dull person that couldn't have possibly done it.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
can't
maybe Kenny
really.
Christensen.
But he wasn't so boring.
He
He had
wasn't,
a
and
very
actually kind of
interesting life.
makes
Yeah. I mean,
seemingly, if you don't know the case that well, he makes a pretty good suspect for
yeah,
Cooper.
you could definitely say that. Yeah. I mean, I think he had a very interesting life outside of Cooper and ended up in some very interesting locations. But yeah, no, not Cooper. But it would be. I love that idea. Now we just need someone to make it and not keep making these silly.
We're gonna make it.
Okay. Who's gonna pay for it?
We are,
The
unfortunately.
money that you're making from this podcast.
Right, I'll use that money.
All of those dollars.
All of them.
Cool. That sounds like fun. I'm down for that.
All right.
Oh, look, I didn't know you were on the back of the you wrote.
Oh, hell yeah, I forgot about that. I'm in a forward or two in some of these books.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, so you know what? I bet the books that you wrote in would be worth quite a good amount of money because they were Darren Schaefer's books.
Yeah, except I don't write in any of my books.
I haven't written in the ones that I paid more than list price for. I didn't write in any of those, but the other ones I have.
The only one that I've drawn in and marked up is Bruce Smith's DB Cooper and the FBI second
Yeah,
edition.
yeah.
Because I was
Oh,
really using that as like a reference guide when I started the
yeah.
show.
Oh, so you haven't written in the new one.
No, I haven't written anything in the third edition.
What? Yeah, no, mine are all marked up, especially that one. I've underlined in Martin's book. Um, I haven't Gunther's book and Hahaa, which I don't know why I need to keep that one immaculate. I haven't written in, but most of the others I've underlined or written some note in some way. That reminds me, Gunther, remember Joe would say that she went to the library and saw something written in the side of the book that she said,
I've seen that actual book,
"You have."
that specific book.
What is written there?
There's a couple notes, nothing serious or interesting, but most importantly, Tim Collins has that book
I was
and
wondering. Okay.
and brought it to my house
Okay.
and showed it to me.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, I think it's in the episode, but he shows it to me and he very much puts me on the spot. And he's like, "Do you think this writing matches Dwayne's handwriting?" And I looked at it for a second. My first thought was no, but
Uh-huh.
I was nervous to say that to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was like, "Not really." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it doesn't match." So I think she was wrong about that. Which that's one of the things I love so much about Tim is even though
Yeah.
he's like it was Dwayne Weber, he's very quick to be like, "Well, Joe was wrong about that."
Yeah. Which makes you really want to like believe him too, because he does realize the stuff that she's just going off the deep end with.
Oh yeah, both times he did both interviews at my house. And both times after he left, I was like, "Damn, is it really Dwayne Weber?"
Right?
Cuz he just absolutely convinces me.
Yeah.
But I'm also a gullible fool, so
I think we all can be. But okay, I was wondering, I had that written for my Gunther notes and I totally forgot to ask if where that book was and what did the note say. But now we know Tim has it and you've seen
yeah, it still has like the library card thing in it. She just stole the book, which
it.
I mean,
You know.
stealing a obscure book from a library isn't the greatest sin of all time.
Yeah, they probably haven't missed it for a while. I'm sure it wasn't a very popular book to check out. But that's interesting. I wonder who did write in it then.
I don't remember what the note was, but I just remember it being like not consequential.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't like, well, this is what really happened in the margin. It wasn't anything like that.
Okay. Interesting. Another
And it was in
case
pencil.
to solve. Oh, weird. Now that would be another case we could maybe solve. Who wrote in the book? We don't need any more mysteries.
No, I'm not chasing that one down. You help yourself to that one, Nicole.
No, I think we can definitely solve Gunther or Clara. I think that one's possible. I think we can solve that with the stamp.
I wish that would get solved.
It can be. I'm 90% sure that can be figured out. Unless the postman at the post office licked the stamp and put it on the letter, then we can't. But someone sealed the letter, right? So like there should be DNA on that if you lick a letter and seal it.
That's true. Even
Not
if somebody
just-
else put the stamp on, if
Mhm.
you didn't want someone else reading your letter, you would seal the envelope yourself.
So whoever has the envelope, then it can be solvable. We just need to get the right people involved.
Let's crowdfund that.
Yeah. Or just phone a friend.
Or we'll just use all the money the show makes to do it.
Exactly. Awesome. That sounds like a plan. We can do that. Okay, cool. Paratrooper Fortune. And just send me the link for the McCoy one.
I already did.
Oh, perfect. Email or text?
Email.
Oh, okay, cool. Cool. Thank you.
All right.
I will read
Well,
it. Which one
thank
are we
you,
going to
Nicole.
read first?
I'm going to read The Real McCoy first because
Okay.
it's been a lot longer since I've read that one.
Okay, I'll read that one first too then. So we're on the same page.
All right. Well, let's
Okay.
get after it, and I'll see you next time, my friend.
Absolutely.
You can find Nicole on the DB Cooper Mystery Group on Facebook, or catch her here for the next episode of our book review series. Do you have family secrets that may help solve the case? Questions, comments, hit us up. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter, or you can email us directly, dbcooperpodcast@gmail.com. Links to all that in the show notes. Thank you to Nicole Legg for taking great notes. Thank you to Russell Colbert, even though he says my notes are dumb. Thank you to Darren Osadich for letting us play his song. I'm Darren Schaefer, and thank you for listening to the Cooper Vortex.
Here's a story we all know about a man many years ago. Hijacked a plane, so we were told. Then he jumped into the cold. A glass of bourbon and a cigarette. He's in the air, the stage is set. Polite and kind, the people say it's time to make his getaway. This is how the story goes about the money and the man. D.B. Cooper, they call me now. Catch me if you can. Rolled up in his coat-built tie. He's got enough to change his life. Where he landed, no one knows. But from his tale, a legend grows. Was a cold, dark, rainy night. As he walked, he saw light. Held his cash close to his side. He just needs to catch a ride. This is how the story goes about the money and the man. D.B. Cooper, they call me now. Catch me if you can. soaking wet down to the bone. Look for a place to use the phone. Little cafe outside of town. He walked in, he just sat down. Met a man with a cowboy hat who told a friend right where he's at. Into the night he disappeared, and from that night a legend reared. This is how the story goes about the money and the man. D.B. Cooper, they call me now. Catch me if you can. 40 years, the secret's out. The story has been told. D.B. Cooper's done running now. He was 80